and welcome back to my channel. So today I am talking about page-to-screen adaptations. I wanted to do this video because I've seen a lot of adaptation reviews recently, and obviously there are a lot more coming out in the coming years, and I just wanted to have a little bit of a chat about them. I'm going to talk about some of the adaptations that I love. These are also some books that I've talked about previously too, so you might not be too surprised about my preferences. So the first one I want to talk about is Jamaica Inn, which was a BBC miniseries adapted from Daphne du Maurier's Jamaica Inn. The plot follows Mary Ellen, whose mother dies and she has to go and live with her aunt and her husband at Jamaica Inn in Cornwall. I think that Daphne du Maurier creates this beautifully dark atmosphere of Cornwall, which is very different to some of her other novels, like Rebecca, for instance. It's a very different atmosphere. Cornwall is presented during dark times and beautiful times, and she explores so many different parts of Cornwall. It's very exciting to read about. So when the miniseries came out, I absolutely loved it as well. It's so well done. I thought the darkness was captured really well. There are bits that are changed from the novel. Every series is adapted differently to fit more into it. I thought the casting was done very well. I really liked who they cast as Mary and Jem and Joss as well. I thought it was really well done. There are a lot of big faces in it as well that you might recognise. Mary is played by Jessica Findlay, who some people might recognise from a couple episodes of Misfits. She was also Rachel in The Riot Club. Jem is played by Matthew McNulty, who is also in Misfits. There are a lot of other faces as well, like Sean Harris, Shirley Henderson as well, who is famous from Bridget Jones' Diary and Harry Potter. She plays Moaning Myrtle. It didn't get a particularly high rating in IMDb, but I think it was fantastic, to be honest. I was really pleased with it. The next one that I want to talk about is another BBC miniseries, and that is Pride and Prejudice. It is my favourite Pride and Prejudice adaptation. I know there are so many films and TV series out there, but this is definitely the one that I've seen that I enjoy watching more of. I love that I think it's on Netflix or Amazon now, so I watch it quite often. It's one of my favourite miniseries that BBC have done, which of course is adapted from Jane Austen's novel. I really like the casting choices. I really like the way that the sisters are portrayed, and the acting I thought was really well done. I love Colin Firth, so I really liked him as Mr. Darcy as well. The rejection of the proposal in this series is one of my favourite scenes. I thought it was so well done, and I really like the way that the characters played off against each other. Again, there are a few changes from the novel, but I think it's about 6 episodes, so there's a lot that goes into it, and I, again, was really pleased with it. So the next one that I want to talk about is a popular YA novel, and that is one of the Hunger Games trilogy. I enjoyed this one more than the other 3 of the movies. I thought it was better done. I thought the action was better. I think it was more aesthetically pleasing as well. I thought it was really well portrayed in cinema, and that is Catching Fire. What I enjoy about the Hunger Games is the action, and it's the drama, it's the devastation, the trauma of politics and war, and these young people having to go out and fight for what they believe in. The last 2 of the Mockingjay were just a bit too slow. I wanted to see more happen. So Catching Fire was definitely my favourite. I thought they captured the most important parts of the novel, and I thought they were really well done. I really liked the games. I really liked the way that it ended. I really enjoyed the way that the districts are alternated. I think it's a really nice opposition to the first Hunger Games, where we see them all fighting against one another. I thought it was really well done. I thought that the casting of Sam Claflin and Jenna Malone were 2 of the best character portrayals in the entire film. I thought it was a really well done film. Definitely my favourite of the entire 4-movie trilogy portrayal that they did. So I find it really difficult to choose a favourite from both the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy. Obviously The Hobbit was a standalone book, but it was a trilogy film production. I couldn't pick a favourite, so I'm just going to kind of say the entirety of those trilogies were really impressive. I really did adore the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I thought the storylines presented were incredible, and the changes as well I thought were really well done. Obviously The Lord of the Rings tries to stick very closely to the novel. There were little bits missed out of the films that I would have liked to seen in, but obviously everyone's personal preference is different. Everyone likes to see different parts of adaptations put into their films. I like the introduction of different characters and new characters in The Hobbit. Obviously I'm very aware not all of those characters existed in the book, but I thought they were really, really nicely slotted into the film production. I grew up on the Lord of the Rings films before I read the books, but I loved them so much. Like, I don't love them equally because I see them as separate. The novels are one thing, and then the movies are completely different. The only thing that I kind of didn't appreciate was the amount of CGI used in the Hobbit films. I would have preferred to see people in costumes than these computer generated villains. I will always think that the villains from the Lord of the Rings trilogy were so much scarier simply because of the way that they are acted and portrayed. I think you get a lot more out of them than you do the orcs in the Hobbit trilogy and the goblins as well. I think the Lord of the Rings captures the horror and the humour very well compared to the Hobbit, which was kind of too much humour at times. I always bawl my eyes out at the last film, right at the end. I know you all know what I'm talking about. I cry every single time without fail watching that film. It is the worst part ever, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about because it devastates me every time. And I think I enjoy it so much more because it wasn't a part of the book. It wasn't. So it's more exciting to see it, and it's more devastating to see it knowing that I've not had preconceptions about that particular relationship. This next one that I want to talk about is The Maze Runner, which is another young adult book that was recently made into a film about a couple of years ago, and the series is going through its production at the minute. But I wanted to talk about this one because it is one that I actually preferred to the book. I just wanted to kind of draw attention to the fact that sometimes, in my opinion, the book kind of was improved as it was produced cinematically. I really did enjoy the darkness that the film portrayed. It was a lot darker. It made a lot more sense. The way that some of the plot lines in the novel were progressed cinematically. I think they were improved. There are loads of books that I've read, dystopian novels or post-apocalyptic novels, where you can believe that these things could actually happen in our world because of the way that our government is or the way that our climate is changing, those kinds of factors in our kind of worldly destruction. But because it was a short book, it was easy to get through and appreciate the relationships and the story still. I never carried on with the series because I wasn't really that interested in continuing with it. I wasn't a big fan of James Dashner's writing style, but it was a fun, enjoyable book, and I would absolutely recommend it if you really do enjoy middle grade or YA dystopian novels. Again, the film, I just preferred it a lot more. It was a lot more enjoyable for me because I enjoyed how the dystopian world was produced cinematically. I really enjoyed seeing what the maze was like opposed to imagining it in my mind. I know for a fact this is a very controversial film. It's a very controversial opinion to have, but I absolutely adored the Mortal Instruments film. I did. Its leading cast is Lily Collins, who plays Clary Frey, and Jamie Campbell Bower, who plays Jace. I really, really liked the way that the film was done, but again, I understand that because I read the books, I understood it a lot more than anybody that hadn't. I did recommend it to a few of my friends when it did come out, and they didn't understand it, but because they didn't read the novel, I think it's one of those films where you don't actually realise how difficult it can be to understand if you haven't read the books. Like, a few people got back to me like, I didn't really get it, so I found it quite boring, like it wasn't explained. There were a lot of plot lines that weren't explained or explored enough, which is understandable, but because of how much Sandra Clare puts into her novels, it's difficult to do so much with it cinematically, which I think is where it kind of fell apart. I enjoyed it because I read it and I understood everything that was happening. I really, really enjoyed the humour as well. I think that they had the humour of the characters and their dialogue from the book really well adapted into the film. I really loved the portrayal of Simon and Clary and that relationship, but I really liked the fact that it was different to Jace and Clary's relationship and Alec and Jace's relationship. I think they were all really well done. I really liked the way that Isabel was portrayed by Jemima West. I thought she portrayed that character really well. Obviously, knowing what struggles Isabel went through in the novel, I think she really handled that character very well. Unfortunately, it isn't explained why her character is the way that it is in the film, but that's very difficult to do with such little time. The movie was 2 hours long, so I can understand why a lot of people didn't agree with a lot of the things that were put in the film opposed to what things were taken out from the book. I think they captured a lot of the main plot points really well. Just the background of the story wasn't well incorporated, I don't think, which made it really difficult for people to understand as a film opposed to as a book where people can read literally every little detail and understand the series as a whole, which again is probably why it was very difficult for people to enjoy and why it flopped so poorly. Again, I really enjoyed it. I love Robert Sheehan as an actor as well, so it's my favourite portrayal of Simon that I've seen. As a reader, I think it was really well done, but I know that if I hadn't read the book, I would really, really like the idea of it, and it would probably lead me to read the book to understand it a bit better. But I wouldn't have liked it if I hadn't read it previously, to be honest. Okay, quickly moving on, I wanted to go back to a very well loved book, and that is Carrie by Stephen King. I absolutely love this book. I watched the film first. I think I watched it when I was quite young. It was the 1976 version of Carrie, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I really did. It was so new for me, it was so different. So when I read the book, I could appreciate it so much more, and the story and the characters as well that are explored. I think it's quite a sad book, like knowing what Carrie goes through at that school and the way people treat her. It became a very quick favourite of mine, especially for adaptations as far as the novel went. As well, I want to compare it to the 2013 production with Chloe Grace Moretz. I actually really enjoyed this film as well, so I wanted to talk about both of them because I really, really did like the two productions of this novel. I thought they were really well adapted. I think as a whole, they explored the characterization of the people in the book very well, and I think that's one of the most important parts of the novel is the characters and how those relationships are explored. I think Stephen King is an incredible writer. He's always been one of my favourites, and I try and watch as many adaptations of his that I can. I think, to be honest, if you love a story enough, any film adaptation is going to be incredible to you. I know that a lot of feedback for the new Carrie wasn't very good, but I really, really enjoyed it. I thought Chloe Grace Moretz played the character of Carrie really well. I thought her mother was fantastically portrayed. I preferred the character of Margaret White a lot more in the new film, but that might be just because I really enjoy Julianne Moore as an actress. I think she has a fantastic way of filling the boots of a character that she explores. I really do. I think she was a fantastic actress for this film. I prefer the dynamic of the school and the students there a lot more in the earlier adaptation. I enjoy them both as films equally. I think they both explore the aspects of the novel really well, and I did really enjoy them as a whole there. I've been talking for a very long time. If you have any kind of different opinions for these films that I've talked about, then I welcome any comments in the box below. As well, if you really did enjoy this video, please give me a thumbs up, and I upload videos every Tuesday, so I will see you next time. Please subscribe as well if you haven't already. Bye!